Garou reached such a ridiculous level of power that he was able to absorb every trace of cosmic energy in existence. And at that point, just getting close to him would have been enough to kill someone instantly because of the radiation pouring off his body. After fighting countless heroes and pushing his evolution to the absolute limit, his power just exploded completely. And this is where we start the arc of Cosmic Garou vs Serious Mode Saitama, a fight that literally ended up destroying almost the entire universe. And yeah, all of this happens after the whole third season of One Punch Man that's still coming. So without dragging it out any further, let's dive straight into one of the best battles ever made in manga. When King said he was with the rescued kid, Tatsumaki just lifted the entire monster association to the surface with her psychic power, and while she was moving everything, she also used the communicators as a way to channel her telepathy, creating a psychic sphere to protect everyone. But since Saitama and Flashy Flash didn't have theirs, they ended up getting crushed by the falling debris. And in the middle of all that destruction, Psychos mocks her, saying that raising the whole monster base to the surface was just a small sample of her power. Tatsumaki realizes Psychos was absorbing energy from the area itself and tries to stop her, but Psychos counters, saying she's already superior in raw strength, and suddenly she fires an attack so powerful it splits the sky, cuts through clouds, and even reaches the ocean, causing an explosion that sends every hero flying. The impact is so strong that part of the planet is literally torn out and held in the air for a few seconds before crashing back down, opening a colossal crater. Tatsumaki is shocked, unable to understand how Psychos suddenly gained so much power, and she notices it goes way beyond monster energy. In that moment, the moon even looks damaged, and both Tatsumaki and Genos, who was nearby, start to suspect that this power might have come from some greater force, maybe even God himself. Meanwhile, the heroes try to evacuate civilians, realizing they're facing something far beyond what any human could hope to handle. Psychos then starts laughing and remembers a vision she had before merging with Orochi, where she saw a living entity shaped like a planet full of craters, staring at her like some kind of god. That vision, according to her, was the moment she received the power to absorb all forms of life and become a perfect entity. And now, her plan is basically to absorb the entire planet Earth and become the planet itself. Tatsumaki, already annoyed, says that plan is pure idiocy and that Psychos is acting like a childish fool for even thinking about something like that. But Psychos responds saying this is her destiny, and that she was chosen to represent supreme psychic power, unlike the useless heroes who only play around trying to save people. According to her, psychics should be focused on evolving and dominating the future. The argument turns into a clash of ideologies, with Tatsumaki believing that using power without responsibility only leads to ruin, while Psychos believes she's the only one capable of guiding humanity into its next stage. Then, furious, Psychos unleashes her full power, and monstrous serpent-like forms rise from the top of the base, each one firing devastating energy blasts and destroying everything around them. And in the middle of this chaos, she declares that she was chosen by God, the one meant to represent divine will on Earth. Even Tatsumaki starts to wonder if she might actually be facing the literal embodiment of the great god. After Tatsumaki literally lifted the entire monster association to the surface, she started fighting Orochi fused with Psychos, and Tatsumaki was flying around, dodging energy blasts and Orochi's monstrous serpents, trying to keep all that firepower away from the ground while the heroes finished evacuating everyone. The impact of their attacks was so insane that it sliced off a chunk of land, creating a giant tsunami. And just when it looked like the city would be swallowed, massive rocks started rising out of the ocean. It was Tatsumaki, saving everyone with her power, stopping that tsunami. Right after that, she used those rocks, launching them at high speed straight at Psychos, and Psychos managed to deflect most of them, but a few still hit her, causing a massive explosion. Tatsumaki thought she'd won, but Psychos came out of it completely unharmed, mocking her, and from there both of them pushed their power to the absolute limit, filling the sky with lights and psychic blasts, looking like the literal end of the world. The lower-rank heroes watched from afar, completely stunned by the sheer level of that battle. During the clash, Tatsumaki creates a tornado made of rocks and uses an illusion to trick Psychos, and Psychos thinks she landed a direct hit on Tatsumaki, but all she destroyed was a puppet formed from stones. Tatsumaki then appears from inside her enemy's body, sarcastically saying that the inside of her was pretty disgusting, just like her face, and then, using her full power, she twists and destroys Psychos' body from the inside out. After that, it's quickly explained how she managed to do it, since she had noticed that the fused body of Psychos and Orochi had a weak point, the fleshy roots connected to the base of the monsters. Seeing that, Tatsumaki transformed herself into energy and allowed the roots to pull her in, invading Psychos' body from within and attacking the areas the barrier couldn't defend. After that, she immediately rescues Atomic Samurai, Pori Pori prisoner, and the other heroes trapped inside the association, already planning to rip the entire base out of the ground. But when she lets her guard down, Psychos reappears at full strength and pierces through Tatsumaki's hands, leaving her immobilized and drained. Tatsumaki tries to fight back, but she's electrocuted and loses consciousness, and Psychos prepares to finish her off once and for all, gathering a colossal amount of energy for the final strike. And when everything seems lost, a light suddenly appears out of nowhere and blocks the attack, and Psychos, confused, tries to figure out what just happened, and when she looks down, she sees someone flying up the monster tower at high speed, and it was Genos. So Saitama's disciple arrives to save Tatsumaki and continue the fight against Psychos. When Tatsumaki was just moments away from being destroyed by Psychos, Genos suddenly appeared like a streak of blue lightning shooting up the monster tower, and all the heroes looked toward the sky in disbelief, because he almost looked like an electric dragon flying straight toward the enemy. Genos, declaring himself the only disciple worthy of Saitama, prepared to fight, gathering all the energy into his hands and firing a piercing thunder cannon at Psychos. Psychos answered with her own attack, and the clash between their energies lit up the entirety of City Z, creating a massive flash, and the impact was so intense that Genos was thrown back, but he got up and activated his arm cannons, blocking the blast from Orochi's monstrous servants. And even injured, Psychos started laughing and taunting him, asking if that cyborg really thought he could beat her, but Genos, determined, said he would fight to the end for his master and for Tatsumaki. Meanwhile, Tatsumaki, still weakened, was trying to rescue the heroes still trapped inside the monster base, and Fubuki, terrified, kept saying she couldn't understand what was happening, because the power outside was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Psychos, furious, screamed that she would prove the power of evolution and supreme intelligence. And underground, Saitama, Flashy Flash, and the little monster were trying to climb out of the rubble while Saitama complained about being hungry. And during all of that, the battle above kept raging. Psychos fired another massive energy cannon, and Tatsumaki tried to stop it with telekinesis, but her hands were too injured to withstand the force. Genos then stepped in front of her, unleashed his final technique, the true spiral incineration cannon. The two energies collided with destructive force, and Genos screamed with everything he had, asking Tatsumaki to hurry while he held the attack back. Tatsumaki used that moment to save the last remaining allies inside the base, and right after, she helped Genos, whose body was overheating and starting to short-circuit. Psychos tried to take advantage of the moment to deliver the final blow, but a psychic barrier appeared, and Tatsumaki, even injured, blocked the attack and kept Genos from falling. And with all the heroes finally safe, she said that now she could fight without holding back. Genos, almost out of energy, replied that he didn't do that for her, but because it was his duty. And at that moment, Tatsumaki completely restrained Psycho's movements, leaving her unable to move at all. And with a cold glare, Tatsumaki asked if she hadn't said something about doing something to her sister, and because of that, now she was going to experience true terror. After Genos arrived to help Tatsumaki and ended up overloading himself with his own power, the staff at the Hero Association suddenly began to feel an overwhelming pressure coming from the sky, and it was Tatsumaki's power clashing against Psycho's. Even the S-class heroes, who already knew how strong she was, were completely stunned by the sheer force of her psychic energy, and Fubuki noticed that her sister's focus was increasing, realizing she wanted to end this fight right now. Meanwhile, Psycho started losing control, panicking as she desperately tried to counterattack. With her hands bleeding, Tatsumaki made a twisting motion, and suddenly the entire city began to distort. The association workers looked at the monitors showing the monsters and realized it wasn't a system error, because the city itself was being twisted by Tatsumaki's power. The ground folded, buildings collapsed, and a massive spiral formed in the sky. Tatsumaki squeezed Psycho's and the monster tower like they were nothing but crumpled paper, while Psycho's blood scattered across all of City Z. And among the debris, Child Emperor tried to get back up and started searching for Zombie Man, but all he found was his broken communicator. Suddenly, something rose from the rubble, but the scene shifted to the underground, where Saitama complained that everything was falling apart and noticed his apartment had been completely destroyed. He tried to pull Flashy Flash out from under the rocks while King and the old man rushed down the stairs to escape the collapsing ruins. Above ground, Psychos, now deformed and covered in blood, still tried to fight. Tatsumaki, overflowing with power, told her that she had stuffed so much disgusting junk inside herself, and now she was going to shut that entire pile of flesh down once and for all. She then focused all her energy into a final attack aimed at the villain's core, but suddenly something went wrong. Tatsumaki began bleeding from her eyes and mouth, and Fubuki realized her sister's power was slipping out of control, causing the barrier protecting the heroes to collapse. Psychos took advantage of Tornado's weakness, tore herself free from the tower, and assumed a new form, transforming into a monstrous jet as she tried to escape toward the city, hoping to absorb humans elsewhere. Even exhausted, Tatsumaki continued chasing her with telekinesis, but she sensed multiple fake presences of psychos. Psychos laughed, saying she had learned that trick from Tatsumaki herself. But Tatsumaki wasn't about to let that slide. She unleashed all her power and destroyed every single Psycho's clone at once, hitting the real one as well. Psychos then began falling from the sky, and when she tried to flee, she was stopped by an invisible barrier. Tatsumaki had surrounded the entire city with a double-layered barrier that was impossible to break through, and she told Psychos she could try to run all she wanted, but there was no escape for her now. Tatsumaki took this fight literally to a god-tier level. After trapping Psychos inside her massive barrier, Psychos tried to escape in her jet-like form, laughing and saying that all she needed to do was pierce Tatsumaki's heart to end everything. Psychos fired an energy blast that hit Tatsumaki right in the chest, but it was only an illusion made of stone. The real Tatsumaki appeared behind her, ready to strike, when a bright flash ripped across the sky. It was Drive Knight, the S-Class hero, arriving at high speed. He transformed into a black jet and shot straight towards Psychos, saying the target had been identified. Psychos tried to react, but Drive Knight chased her non-stop, giving her absolutely no room to breathe. Down on the ground, the other heroes noticed his arrival, and Atomic Samurai was stunned, since technically Drive Knight should have been dead. Meanwhile, Drive Knight and Psychos exchanged energy blasts midair, and Genos appeared, even heavily damaged, warning everyone that Tatsumaki was almost at her limit. He asked for reinforcements and flew upward again, leaving the other heroes preparing to jump in. Atomic Samurai joined the battle, and Child Emperor was shocked to see that even Zombie Man had survived. Atomic Samurai's disciple dropped to his knees after being saved by Pig God, frustrated that he was still so far from reaching S-Class level. But Atomic Samurai told him he did a good job and that it was time to leave the rest to him. Right after that, Metal Knight also arrived, rescuing the remaining S-Class heroes and clearing the rubble effortlessly. Then the scene shifted to a helicopter with a medic approaching, but he couldn't land because Tatsumaki's barrier was still covering the entire area. Metal Knight then decided to assist Tatsumaki, understanding how severe the situation had become, ripping an entire tower from the ground, tying his cables around it, and using the momentum to launch himself straight toward the battlefield. Garou straight up left this hero traumatized, making him see Garou as pure, absolute evil, and after their fight, Blackluster collapses onto the ground, hugging his knees, trembling and crying. He feels like a complete failure, saying that if he keeps fighting, it'll be pointless, without justice, just a way to lie to himself about his tiny amount of strength, because he could never reach the level of that absolute evil. Then Sweet Mask shows up and immediately kicks Blackluster in the face, and even though he's injured, Blackluster doesn't fight back. Sweet Mask keeps kicking him over and over, shouting that he still dares call himself a hero, saying there's no place for cowards there, but Blackluster just sits there quietly, only asking everyone to forgive him. Atomic Samurai watches all of it, finding it pretty ironic. After all, Sweet Mask was the one who broke down crying and begged Tatsumaki for help just a little while ago. At that moment, Sweet Mask starts bleeding as he loses control. Puri Prisoner walks over and tries to lift Blackluster's spirits, telling him he's still strong, that his muscles are still there, and that they need him. He speaks honestly, saying Blackluster can protect his teammates, and beyond that, he can protect himself too. Those words hit Blackluster hard, and he looks down at his trembling hands and starts to get back up. Sweet Mask also tries to motivate him, saying he should never allow himself to be weak, saying strength comes from refusing to give up. And right then, Drive Knight comes dropping down from the sky, fighting Psychos as she fires a blast of energy. He gets hit, but shows up again completely intact, shifting into his motorcycle form and charging at her full speed. And back on the ground, Puri teases Blackluster, saying that if he stands up, he'll give him a big, sloppy kiss. Right after that, everyone starts laughing, and Blackluster laughs too as he rises to his feet, saying he won't be useless. Atomic Samurai looks relieved and says that now they can all join together to finish this fight. And so, the real S-Class heroes, along with Sweet Mask, team up to take down Psychos and give support, while Tatsumaki, Genos, and Drive Knight keep clashing with her head-on. Even wounded, Tatsumaki refuses to back down while fighting both Orochi and Psychos, and after she and Drive Knight team up against Psychos, Silver Fong, the Boys Master, shows up. He arrives together with Bomb and Fubuki, surprising all the heroes around them, and he says he's there to help in the battle, which makes Atomic Samurai genuinely happy to see him. However, Child Emperor gets confused, since he was sure Fong wouldn't take part in this operation. Child Emperor makes up an excuse about not being able to get Fong's number, but Fong immediately understands why he wasn't contacted. He explains that he knows exactly what everyone was thinking, that he might hesitate to fight Garou since Garou is his former student. But he promises he'll face him not as a hero, but as a master, determined to settle everything with his own hands. and he's grateful for the chance to solve it personally, saying that this is his responsibility and that he wants to correct the mistakes he made in the past. At that moment, Fubuki asks the heroes to help her sister, Tatsumaki, because she's about to pass out from how much power she's been using. Everyone looks up and sees Tatsumaki lying on top of the tower, unconscious and badly injured. Meanwhile, Drive Knight is still fighting Psychos, firing off jet-like attacks, but Psychos regenerates and then launches a deadly beam straight toward Tatsumaki, aiming for her because she's clearly the strongest one there. And just when it looks like it's over, Genos appears in the very last second and blocks the attack, protecting Tatsumaki. He tries to wake her up, but he realizes she's unconscious and trapped in a dream about her past. Tatsumaki sees herself as a child locked in a cell inside a laboratory where scientists perform cruel experiments, and then a monster breaks free and kills every scientist in sight. Little Tatsumaki is left to die, and when everything seems lost, a light appears. It's Blast, the #1 hero. He destroys the monster and saves her, and Blast asks why she didn't use her powers. Crying, Tatsumaki answers that she thought no one needed her, and he places his hand on her head and tells her that there will always be someone who needs her help, and that she should protect her family. Those words awaken Tatsumaki's true strength, and back in the present, she hears Fubuki calling out to her. Tatsumaki opens her eyes, smiles, and tells Psychos to stop underestimating her. Then she rises and unleashes her full psychic power, joining forces with Drive Knight and Genos, while Psychos desperately tries to flee in her jet form. The two heroes fire their combined attack, a colossal energy cannon aimed straight at the villain, and they end the chase with an explosion that lights up the entire sky. Genos and Drive Knight latch onto Psychos and fire their cannon straight into her chest, but Psychos suddenly splits open her back, revealing a massive mouth that spits all that energy right back. Both of them get blasted and fall. Psychos then aims at Tatsumaki on the tower, but Super Alloy Darkshine and Fubuki appear, starting to hurl enormous chunks of debris to interfere with her attack. The Master Rescuer turns into a literal rock-throwing machine, and Fubuki boosts his strength with her psychic power. Genos, almost completely out of energy, proposes something extreme, fusing his core with Drive Knights to increase their power. They fuse, transforming into a giant electric mech, a technological dragon ready to take on Psychos. Drive Knight warns that the core is going to explode soon, and it's all or nothing. The Master Rescuer takes the chance and hurls an entire building straight at Psychos, but even then she opens another monstrous mouth and fires an attack that looks absolutely fatal. Atomic Samurai slices through the structure from the inside, clearing a path, and at that moment Piripiri Prisoner, Darkshine, and Atomic Samurai all rush forward together, hitting her with a series of consecutive strikes. But the missile from the fused Genos and Drive Knight finally brings Psychos crashing down. Psychos mutates into a grotesque sphere of flesh, trying to disconnect herself from the fusion, but it's already too late. The brothers Bang and Bomb use their ultimate flowing water technique, slamming her body down and pinning the monstrous mass into the ground. Fubuki celebrates, but suddenly senses something off. Tatsumaki, high in the sky, activates her power again and the entire ground trembles. And then we cut back to Saitama and Flashy Flash. Flashy Flash is finally freed by Saitama, who pulls out a heavy black cube from beneath the rubble, a strange object whose weight no one could even guess. And that's how the battle of Psychos and Orochi against the heroes of the Hero Association finally ends. And soon enough Garou and Saitama are going to meet. When Saitama and Flashy Flash end up face to face with God in One Punch Man, everything starts right after the defeat of Psychos and Orochi. Psychos pulls herself out of the monstrous body, and Tatsumaki, wasting zero time, uses her psychic powers to rip the entire Monster Association base straight out of the underground. The ground starts shaking, and the whole hideout is dragged upward, turning into a colossal structure floating in the sky. All the S-Class heroes are stunned at the real extent of Tatsumaki's power. Meanwhile, underground, Flashy Flash finally manages to free his trapped arm, but realizes his sword, yes, the one he named Henry, was completely destroyed thanks to Tatsumaki. Saitama, already losing patience, can't understand why they're wasting time worrying about something like that. Up above, Tatsumaki compresses the ruins of the base into a massive green psychic spear and fires it straight through Orochi's core, making sure Psychos has zero chance of regenerating again, since she had only been defeated, not killed. In the middle of all that chaos, the little monster who was with Saitama and Flashy Flash tries to escape through a hole in the ground, but he ends up finding something bizarre, a gigantic being sitting inside what looks like another dimension entirely. The place looks like an entire universe hidden inside a portal, and suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes inside their minds, offering power through the black cubes. The voice says that if they're worthy, they will receive strength. If not, they'll be erased. Saitama, with nothing to lose, challenges the owner of the voice, thinking it's the Monster King Orochi that Flashy Flash mentioned. Right then, the portal opens, and out steps none other than the strongest hero of all time, S-Class Rank 1, Blast. He arrives looking exhausted, saying he made it just in time and warning them not to touch the cube. Flash, Saitama, and the little monster are confused, and Blast explains that the cubes are transmitters used to communicate with that mysterious entity, and that he's been collecting them all over the world. The voice recognizes Blast, but he immediately cuts off the connection by tossing the cube away, and Flashy Flash, shocked, realizes he's standing in front of the hero everyone believed was nothing more than a myth. Curious, Flash tests him by attacking at full speed, but Blast appears behind him in the blink of an eye and grabs him by the shoulder, proving he's far faster than Flash could ever imagine. Blast explains that time flows differently inside that dimension, and they need to get out of there as fast as possible. Before leaving, he asks why there's a monster with them. Saitama casually answers that the little guy is their tour guide and flashlight. Blast laughs at the answer and says they'll meet again. He asks them to pass along his regards to the Hero Association and to Tatsumaki. And guys, pay close attention, because that god is going to be extremely important for awakening Garou's true power.